Hello everybody, this is my first Twitch for game programming. I'll be making a game in Unity, but I'm kind of just going to go at my own pace and I'm going to just explain what I'm doing as I'm doing it. But I'm pretty much a new programmer. I've been playing with this kind of on and off for like the last year, but uh, never really finished a project or anything, so that's the point of this stream. I want to get through a whole project, and the project that I'm going to be working on now is called Sand City, or name to be evolved as I go through, I guess. But we're going to be making a game about making sand castles. Because I was at the beach this past month and I just had a really good time building sandcastles and like watching the waves kind of take it down. I thought maybe I can make this into a game somehow. I looked out there. There's a lot of like kids games, like building the sandcastle, and like sometimes it'd wash it away or not, but wasn't done really well. So I'm gonna try to make one look and feel really good, like intuitive for the gameplay and everything. But what I'll start with first is I'm just gonna explain kind of what I've done so far, but to do that I'm kind of introduce my concepts here on Unity on a fresh scene, just so you know where I'm coming from. But okay, I'll stop talking to you and I'll start talking to my screen and to myself so that this is all a little less awkward. Alright, um, so what I want to do is just show you kind of like the movement that is happening here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a cube for the ground. Here's the ground. Oh, I'm not centered, so let's go ahead and center that. And we're going to move that a little bit lower so that the top of the cube is below the ground, right below the ground, so that it makes sense that 0, 0, 0 is the ground. And I'll just make this kind of arbitrarily big, like 20, maybe 30. Let's go 30. Alright, so we got this, a ground. Doesn't do anything. And just for fun, we'll make another cube. Throw it up here. Rotate a little bit. And we're going to make it a physical object. Physics. Rigid body. Alright, done. Game over. No. Alright, I'm going to hit play. And so we can see that the cube has fallen. So when I hit play, the game has started, and all I did was make a ground and make a physical object in this world, and boom, we have a falling cube. So Unity has some built-in. Can you see that if I click there? Oh, you can't. Anyway, actually, let me change the stream setting right quick. See if what happens if I say, instead of just inner window, I say entire window. Hit OK. Oh, I went. Why did I go transparent? Let's see what happened here. Window capture. Yeah, refresh. Okay. Maybe if I edit the scene. Oh, it went over here. Interesting. Okay, well, it is the entire window. Oh, you know what? This is not the one I wanted. I'm gonna delete this or undo this. This is the one I wanted. Entire window. Aha. Let me just resize this a little bit so it gets the whole thing. Well, really the only reason I'm even doing this is I just want to see if I click on here. You still don't see the sub windows, but at least you can kind of see what I'm clicking up there. Doesn't really matter. So I am going to just put it back to inner window. Move you up here, the corner, and move you here. Okay. So that was really just a waste of time. Okay, so we're here. We have a physical object. What do we do? Oh, the standards asset. So Unity has some built-in assets under game objects. Nope, assets, import packages, characters. One of them is, well, this is the entire characters standard asset that comes with Unity. And if you drill down to standards assets, characters, and third person controller, I think that's what it's supposed to say. Oh, third person character. There's some prefabs. So prefabs are basically objects that are already pre-made. So like, just to explain, everything in Unity is a game object. So if I create empty, it creates an empty game object. All it is a transform. It's position in space. Every game object has a transform. And I know every single tutorial explains that to you. So here we go, another person explaining that to you. So the game object, great. And then every game object has some components. So, I mean, they don't have to. Sometimes you use the empty game object. But the components are here a whole bunch of built-in Unity components. So if I create it like just a cube, right? So this cube that I have here, it has a transform component, but it also has a mesh filter, kind of what pixels does it take up on the screen. So if I like deactivated everything, I don't have to. The box collider, it's it's bounding box basically. So if you're thinking 2D, it's the area that says, hey, this is the area that this object lives in. So this is being this kind of object lives in a box, and it doesn't have to be like the artwork and everything doesn't have to live in this box, but basically this tells you, hey, in any kind of calculations of this world, this is what I'm going to be using, my bounding box or my collider. So this collider is this green outline shown here on the box. So if I actually kind of move it around, if I like click on the Y and drag it, you kind of see it move in the Y axis. Just zero that back out. And so yeah, that's the bounding box. I mean the collider. I'm going to try to call it collider. Okay, and then the mesh renderer shows that the little 3D object, the actual rendering of the 3D object, and then it has a whole bunch of options. So each of these things are components. And then of course the rigid body, the thing I added at the end there, this makes it a physical object, kind of be affected by gravity, gives it a mass, gives it drag. Kinematic just means that it's not affected by the things. It's just that it's solid in time. And yeah, all of that. So okay, so now that you understand the game objects and all that, and I don't know where I was going at. Oh, prefabs. So say you get an object exactly the way you want it, and that you know you're going to use that set of components and options and everything together. You will make a prefab. So if I want to say, hey, yeah, this cube, I love how it works out, just like this, and I want to make lots of falling cubes, I'll just drag it down to any folder here. Actually, let's kind of make a folder. So here's all my folders. If I made like just a prefabs folder, like my prefabs, and then I move this cube here, and before I move it, let's give it something a little bit more, a physical cube, something like that, right? So that just means it has physics and all of that. Cool, so we have this physical cube, and if I drag it on the scene, you can see I can drag it anywhere on the scene. I can drag it here in the hierarchy. So if I drag it in the hierarchy, it puts it exactly where it was, just like that. So if I move it up here, oh yeah, and here's just some controls: pan, move, rotate, scale, and 2D adjustments. The pivot either in the center or their pivot point. Local means I'm moving the cube along its normals, its own axis, or just Control Z. Global means I'm moving it across a world axis. So I'm going to do it like that. World axis. There's a physical cube. Let's get another physical cube, and let's move that here. So now we got 3 physical cubes. And if I hit play, they all fall down, act like physical objects. Bam. Hey, and they all fall the same. They're like exact dice or something. Okay. Anyway, there we go. That's prefabs. So all that to explain that Unity comes with its own prefabs and models and a whole bunch of other stuff, and you can watch all the tutorials on there. But prefabs here, I get 2 of them with the third-person controller. I get third-person controller and the AI third-person controller. So if I drag it here, you can kind of see it moving around here, or I can drag it here, and it probably will put it at 0, 0, 0, or wherever it thinks. Oh, eesh. Yeah, put it way over there. I don't like that way over there. So I'm going to undo that. Let's just put it where I want it to put it, around here. Oh, here's fine. Okay. I'm holding out Alt to do that, to rotate the screen around like that. Okay, and middle click to drag. So we got this third-person prefab. Now if I hit play, cool thing is it has a bunch of scripts. It's ready to go. And oh man, it just moves around perfectly, like just like I would want it to. So if I look at the components as a capsule collider, a little different than the box collider, but same principle. So like if I run into a cube, you can see I'm pushing it. My capsule collider is hitting its box collider. Uh, what else? Rigid body, so it is a physical object. And has two scripts on it. A third person control, which means how am I controlling it, and it's with the keyboard. And a third person character, this is controlling all the like animation and the way I'm moving and the speed I'm moving and all of that stuff. So yeah. So yeah, that's a great like movement tool. So I have just some issues. The way I want to do it, like it feels really good. This feels great. But there's two things I want to do. Instead of controlling it by the keyboard, I want to control it by mouse or touch because I kind of want this to be a mobile game. So I'm imagining my guy is a guy that can move around, and then like the second you're ready to like dig in the sand, like you press a button or something, and then like the camera goes from this top view down to his head where he can see the sand right in front of him, and he kind of plays around in the sand right there. So that's kind of my idea for this. So where am I going with this thought? Oh right, the problem with just this controller. So I mean, changing that, I'll just change this control script to something else instead of keyboard movements. It'd be mouse movements, and more importantly, like there's this built-in nav mesh where basically it's kind of like its own pathfind algorithm right here built into Unity, so we can use that. And okay, anyway, what am I thinking? Yeah, I mean, I didn't prepare, so that's why this is a live stream, right? Uh, so, I guess I can do that first, like, or you know what? Okay, sorry. Going to that nav mesh idea, there's actually another third-person controller here, prefab, and this actually does use a nav mesh, so I don't have to really do anything special. So, I drag this guy in here. I'll put him right here. So, we can see he uses a nav mesh agent component, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And boom, instead of the control script has one more additional thing, and it's a target. What I'll do is I'll create a target. So I'm going to create an empty game object, and we'll just name it target. And we can put it wherever we want. Let's just say, hey, if we're looking at the top, let's get him to move over here. Alright, moving back. Alright, so he's going to move over there. So right when we start the game, that guy's going to take off to the right. So, but we have to specify that. So AI third person game controller. Okay, I want the target to be target. Very creative with my names. So he's going to go run to the right towards that target. But he can't move. If I hit play, it'll say, no, you can't move. Set destination can only be called on active agents that have been placed on a nav mesh. So this guy is an active nav mesh agent, but he's not placed on a nav mesh because we haven't specified any of that. So what I'm going to do is click on this big old ground cube. I can either just make it static here, or I can go to navigation, which if you don't have it, so if I close this out, if you don't have that navigation, which you probably don't, it's under Window, Navigation, right here. And sometimes it might just show up like up here, but I think it by default shows up in the same one as the inspector. So, okay, this nav mesh static basically means, hey, this is going to be my ground. This is going to be where our units move on. It doesn't have to be a cube. It could be a complex terrain or something like that, but for now, it's a cube with just one facing the top. And I guess it kind of like casts down, but I don't know exactly how it works. But it makes a nav mesh, which I will show you what it is in a bit. So, okay, I made it nav mesh static, or it also looks for all static objects. So if I made this static, that would work too. And if I go to bake, I leave the default settings, but basically it's like what's the radius of your person that usually moves around here, the height of the person that moves around here, what's the maximum slope they can walk up, and the step height is how, like, if there's a little step like this, can the guy make it over this step, or does he have to like walk all the way around something just to get up here? So if it's long as like zero point 0.4 high, he'll be able to just step right over it. And yeah, I don't know what the other stuff is. The off mesh links. Basically, I think if you have like two different nav meshes, like say the step was higher than that, but there's a place you can jump from that nav mesh to the next nav mesh, uh, you can make these little links, but that's only in the pro version of Unity, and I am using the personal edition or the free version. So yeah, so here we go. I'm gonna bake, shake and bake, right? So if I hit bake, oh, it wants me to save first. You don't see it, but a pop-up shows up saying you need to save the scene before baking navigation. So I will click Save Scene. I'm in my assets folder. I might make another folder just called Scene. And since we're just playing around, we'll just call this a Scene 00. I don't think I'm gonna make more than 99 scenes on this stream, so yeah. So there we go. Big old blue box. We can see that the little 0.5 is not highlighted. And yeah, this is the nav mesh. So if I zoom in, there's really nothing I can show you about this nav mesh because it's just one giant cube. Other more complicated nav mesh, you can see where the nav mesh is actually broken down into different polygons, and you'll be like, okay, if I wanted to go from this point to this point, it'd have to traverse through these polygons, and then once it makes to that polygon, this is the point it needs to go to. So that's kind of how a nav mesh works. So okay, we got a nav mesh and we have a target for our player. So that's all the setup that it took. That took no time if I knew what I was doing. The explanation of it just takes a lot longer. But if you know what you're doing, you could have done that in like 2 seconds. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna hit play. One guy should just take off to the right. Ah, okay, now you made it to his target. And then, mind you, I'm still over here. I don't know what he's doing over there. I think he's just trying really hard to stay on target. But okay, and my guy down here is being controlled by the keyboard. And you know, the crouch, even walks. So okay, another cool thing about Unity is that you can kind of make changes while the game is running. But mind you, if you make a change while the game is running, you have to redo it after the game is running. So that's why sometimes when you hit play, some people have their Unity set up so that it's like all red, so they know if they make any changes during this time, it won't stick. So okay, so give me an example. That's what you're asking me? That's like, okay, fine, I'll give you an example. This third person, back to the inspector. All these things are happening, but what I wanted to show you is this target. Okay, so this target right now, the target is target. But what if we wanted him to follow the player instead of this this thing on the ground that I have? We can go to third person controller and move its transform into here. So now we have third person controller transform, and bam, he's chasing me now. So now wherever I move, he's gonna be following me all day long. So that's cool. And that's kind of how I wanted to set up. Instead of, you know, a guy following another guy, I would have the guy following my mouse when I click it. So that's what I have set up in my actual game scene, which I will get to eventually. I don't know how long I've been on here, 18 minutes already. Jeez. Okay, just to explain this part. So, okay. That looks good. He's following me and he's pushing me around. So what are the problems I'm having with this right now? It's good. It's using the nav mesh, or it's using my keyboard as the control, but I want it to be more of a physical object. Like, the thing is, right now, if I go try to this guy's annoying me. Hold on, let me just stop it and replay it. Or so that guy just takes off. Okay, so my guy, so if I just push his box, I can easily push the box, which is fine. But if I took one of these boxes, which is the one I'm closest to, that one. Alright, so if I took that box, made this mass like something ridiculous, something this guy cannot push, like 200, and And then if I look at my guy's only 1, so he's like, he's going to be this one little tiny mass unit, 1 kilogram or whatever units they're using. And then I have this 200 kilogram box. This guy should not be able to push it. And let me just make it bigger just so that you can see what I'm talking about. Am I making this bigger? Oh no, I'm just moving it. I'm like, what's happening? Scale. Yeah, I see that. The Z. Oh yeah, there we go. So just to give it effect, it's still 200 kilograms, whether it was that size or that size, but I just wanted to give it a little effect. Like, I shouldn't be able to push this thing around at all. But if I try, oh, maybe I can. Very good, very good. But I think the nav mesh can, which is, I think, the problem I was running into. So if I take this guy, alright, it made a liar out of me, which is okay. That's awesome. So you could just use this built-in default settings and it will work just fine. Let me take a look at the code while we're just here and why I thought one thing where it's actually doing the other thing. So let's do it. Let's go to either one. I'm going to look at this third-person character script. So to get into the script, you just open it up with this, and bam, and it opens it up in whatever you're using as your IDE, which I'm using Visual Studio, but I think most of you guys that use Unity use MonoDevelop. But I like Visual Studio. I'm very used to it, and it feels comfortable to me. Okay, so I guess I'll just go a little bit into a Unity object. So all Unity objects are going to kind of inherit some kind of behavior. So if you're making a script uses this mono behavior typically. So you can see that, hey, this is a third-person character class, but it inherits from this mono behavior, or script class is what I'm going to call that, mono behavior. And then we have a few private variables here. So these private variables are floats, and it kind of describes the attributes of this class. And the serializable field means that it is available on Unity right here at the bottom right where my head is, which you can't see. So let me just click off my head right quick. Yeah, where my head was, that's all those serializable fields right there. Okay, back. Hi, there's my head. Okay. So that's what serializable fields are, and then the rest of these are just private variables. So like if it doesn't have the word actual private, it means it's private by default. But the other options we have are public, which means any other class can access this attribute or that variable. And then we also have protected, which means anyone that is or inherits from this class can use it, but not people outside of that class. So okay, cool. Unity has some built-in functions. One's going to be start. I mean, the most often used ones are going to be start, update, fixed update, and on animator move is the other one I'm going to use, but that's not as commonly used. So okay, start. This is right when the object loads. I don't know the actual technical, like when it actually starts, but typically you do all your initialization code here. So like kind of like a constructor, but you want to wait till Unity does all its stuff it needs to do to the game object first. So this is the Unity flavor of a constructor. So here we go. What we're doing here is we're getting references to all our components, because you really just want to do this once. You don't want to put this in an update script where every time it loads like 60 times a second or 30 times a second it gets a reference. You want to get the reference once and done. So here we go. We're getting the animator reference, getting a rigid body reference, the capsule collider reference, so all of that. So but what I wanted to see is on the update, or when it's trying to make a move, it's moving the capsule collider, right? Because I think the built-in object has this third person, this AI. Okay, so yeah, this AI guy He is a rigid body, so he is being moved around by it, and he's being used for gravity. Huh. But what is happening? I guess the nav mesh is telling the rigid body what to do, which is what I'm trying to think. So, yeesh. Let me tell you kind of what's going on here in Notepad or in on my tablet. So I'm gonna go into my team viewer. Yeah, you can see that. Cool. I'm gonna grab my pen and tablet. Okay. Yeah, that looks fine. Just got a new stylus, so don't mind me. So we're just gonna call this movement. That's what today's topic is about. Movement. So Unity has 2 or 3 different things right now, and I only showed you 2. So let me go back to Unity. Sorry. Okay, so Unity has the rigid body, has the nav mesh agent, and has the animator. What's cool about this animator thing, which I guess I didn't get into, but I really want to show you before I start this whole notepad thing, is if I go to the animator, these are the different animations that are set up. So when the character's first started, he goes into this grounded blend tree. And so this blend tree basically takes 2 variables, or a lot of variables actually, but 2 that I see right here. His turn, so like which way is he turning, and which way, how much is he moving forward. So if he's not turning and not moving forward at all, he's at the idle stage. So, I wonder if I can play around here. Oh, yeah, here we go. Here's a sample. Oh, my head's all up in the way. Let me turn my head off. Okay, so on the right-hand side, you can see the sample, the blend tree, and all of that. And am I dropping any frames right quick? No, I'm not. Cool. Alright, so on the right-hand side, we have a 2D freeform Cartesian plane. So basically it chooses a different set of animation based on 2 variables. The 2 variables is forward and turn. So if I hit play by itself, it initializes here. No turning and no forward motion. And I can change that stuff all on either on this right hand side or on these sliders here. It's easier, I think, more intuitive here, but I'll just do it here first. So if he's walking forward, you can kind of just push that up, and you can see the animation on the bottom right, he starts moving forward. And the more I move it, he's going from a walk all the way to a run. And then if you look up here, it's kind of like that one dimension, right? That one variable, forward. So here he's idle. As he goes up to here, he goes to walk, and then as he moves up a little more, he goes up to run. So basically this is a number from 0 to 1, and he just somewhere here. Now if we make that 2-dimensional, and now we say, oh, now he can go forward or he can start moving around, then we can use this 2-dimensional thing. Here, I'm going to put my face on there because I was doing some hand motions and you guys missed it. So okay, I'm going to drag it here. So here we're going moving forward, we're walking, we're running, we're back to idle. Now let's just turn without moving forward. There we go. He's just turning at the bottom without moving forward. Let's make a big turn. Well, I'm not moving forward. Oh, that's 180, 180, 180. Alright, so he goes from like 0 degrees all the way to 180. And then the turn is just a number from 0 to 1, but 1 equal 180. Now, let's say he's walking. Now, let's say he's turning to the right. There we go. So you can see like on the grid below him, he's actually, the animation has like a built-in motion. And then, oh yeah, he's doing like 180 walking, so that's cool. And then if we go back to running, he's kind of walking running 45 degrees, and then running 90 degrees, or 180 degrees, I don't know how it goes. But anyway, that's this whole thing, and all this stuff's built into the animation, so I think that part's really cool. I mean, it blows my mind. There's other things we could probably add, maybe like a backwards motion and backwards rotation, but we didn't really. This is what's built into Unity, and it's pretty awesome. So yes, each of these is a single animation. So if I like double click on one of those, oh no, my bad. It's going to open up in Visual Studio. Not what I wanted to do right now. Closing that. Back to what I'm trying to say. I'm going to make this a little bigger here. Alright, so on the third person character, here we go. This humanoid, I'm sorry, I saw the wording when I said it. There's a whole bunch of animations in this animation folder for the third person character. And this is what came with Unity. So if I hit play, this is a standard uh, half turn left. So that's the heavy turn 180 degrees. And that's built into like a 3D package. And you can use different models. So you can use we can use the Ethan model or whatever. Okay. So all that movement is baked right into the script. So rigid body's not really doesn't really have to handle it, nor does the nav mesh. But the nav mesh and rigid body do have their own kind of movement. So it's crazy. There's 3 different movement uh, components already that I introduced to you today. I mean, there's nav mesh, rigid body, and animation. So the question's really up to you as a developer. Like, how do you want all these things to actually control movement? Do you want the animator to take control? Because the cool thing about the animator taking control is, like, if someone's walking, uh, you get the actual footsteps where they belong. If you animate it correctly, like, it looks very nice. Like if he's running across the field or something, it has a really nice feel to it. His foot doesn't slide as he's walking, because you can have that really slow animation, but the actual animation is going really fast. So I mean, the actual character is going really fast, so he's like kind of gliding as he's walking. Looks kind of awkward. So using the animation gives you the most realistic movement. But then you want the character to be able to like push stuff. Do you want the character to like follow the best path around different objects? And so you really need nav mesh to get the control around different objects, and you need the rigid body to be like, hey, this object's way too heavy for you to push. So if you try to walk against this object, you might be able to push it, but you won't move it anywhere because your mass is 1 and its mass is 200. So okay, back to what I was going to say. So movement, we have 3 different kind of movement scenarios. So like 3 different movement engines. And so I wanted to tell you what I thought or how I thought it should work. How did I think it should work? I already forgot. Alright. Let's start with nav mesh. Nav mesh agent. Yeah, let me show you one more thing about the nav mesh agent while we're here. So nav mesh agent on its own, I'm going to delete these 2 things. We're going to just start from scratch, and I'll show you what each movement engine does. Let me see how much time I got. Oh wow, we're 30 minutes. So this might be just an explanation start. Like, we might not do anything new this stream, because I'm going to try to stream for like about an hour every day, every other day. Except weekends, I'll try to stream for like 1 hour. So okay, movement. Okay, like I was saying, we're gonna make a 3D object called player. So he's a capsule, but his real name is player. And I want him to be at the 000 mark plus maybe 1. I think he's 2 height. So there we go, player. And what I like to do with this guy, just so I see what his front is add a cube, call it visor, because it's like his eyeballs. Put it under player, which is cool. I didn't really explain it, but anyway. If you learn more about parenting and childing in Unity, it's very cool stuff. And let me go back to scene view here. I think vector forward is z equals 1. So if I said move forward a little bit, that's the forward direction. Okay. I know this is really not part of what I want to tell you about, but I just do this every time for some reason. Make this like a visor, put it up here. So cool. It's like a little guy with his little visor on. Alright, so that's my character. I'm going to remove box collider. I don't need to know when his eyeballs collide with anything. So I just want to render it so it looks, so you have an idea where it is. And here's the player. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an empty thing and call that player. And we're going to move this here. We have player. I'm going to unchild visor from player, or this player. Look, just look what I'm doing. visor, body. So okay, and I'm going to remove the capsule collider here. Or actually, I'm going to copy the component and paste it here. I want all the actual logic to be here on this main like parent object player, and then all the sub objects just to be like the actual visual representation of it. So I don't really need the logic or anything here. So okay, body, visor, or if I put any other character in here, that's where that lives. But player is the main, it's the main shebang. Except player is not at 0, 0, 0. Man, alright, so let's just keep everything needs to be at 0, 0, 0 until I'm ready for you not to be at 0, 0, 0. Yep, you too, visor. I'll keep your scale though. So I'm going to move you up a little bit, the Z axis, and move you up, and then move the whole player up to 1. Ah, yes. It's looking better. Cool. Oops, I made the visor too big. Let's scale it down a little bit. That's good. Alright, stop playing with the visor, ET. Get to it. Alright, getting to it. What am I doing? Oh, yeah. So, I wanted to show you nav mesh movement first before I got into it. Let me lower the brightness on my tablet so it's not like killing my battery. Alright. So we have this player. We want to move him around our nav mesh that we made earlier, which is this. If I click that and hit navigation. So he's going to have to be a nav mesh agent. So under component, navigation, nav mesh agent. Default settings are good, I think. Maybe. Maybe just a little too high. Base height. If I made you 1. Oh no. I don't know. Let me disable this capsule collider right quick. Yeah, you see, like I think it's starting halfway up his body, so we're gonna need to do the center needs to go down negative 0.5 maybe. No, not you. You're the capsule collider. You stay at 0. Base offset. Here we go. Negative 1. Yeesh. 1. There we go. Oh man, that took me a bit. Alright, so that's his nav mesh collider, which is just another collider for this object. You don't even need this capsule collider for this part, but yeah, you don't. So I'm just minimize it. So that checkbox means whether it's enabled or disabled. It's disabled, so you don't have to worry about it. Alright, radius is 0.5, just like the character. Great, 2, 1. All these can be changed, but great. Now the only thing left to do is we have to set a destination for him to go to. There's nothing, if you're making a nav mesh from scratch, there's really nothing you can do here in the window that can tell this character where to go. At least I don't think so. So we have to make our own script. So great, we get to make our own script from scratch already. If you scroll down, there's a new script. Actually, I'll add it, but just give me a sec. I like to do it here because I like to make it in its own folder and everything. So new folder, scripts. Since this is just all me playing around, I'm not too worried about the naming, but I'll worry about it a little bit. We'll call it nav mesh movement. So that's all this does. Cool. Nav mesh movement. And then what I'd like to do is open up my player. Just drag this nav mesh movement here. So now, it's broken. I broke it. Parsing error. What did I do? Better open it. I put .cs on there, and it's like .cs in there. So okay, shoot. Let me delete. Close that. Close that. Alright kids, don't put the extensions in Unity. I'm getting too many folders already, and like I just started. Imagine a real game. Alright, C#. Nav, mesh, movement, no.cs. Perfect. Yep, reload. Oh, and before I get too far, player, move the script onto the player. So now this script will be executed when the player is created, and this player is already in the scene, so it's created right when you hit play. So if I hit play, what will happen is start on this thing will happen, and then the update loop will happen all the time. So let's go. Nav mesh moving. I have my own formatting, so I hit Control K, Control D, it gives me my own formatting. Alright, so like I said, start functions usually the time you get all your references to the things you need to work with. So I'm going to need a reference to my nav mesh agent, which is get component nav mesh agent. And do I need anything else? I don't think so. Okay, and so it's like, oh, you don't have this variable set. So like, this is why I like Visual Studio. Just like hit a button on it and it makes the variable for me. Perfect. Okay, cool. And then during the update loop, all I'm going to do is check to see whether you clicked something. So there's a whole bunch, there's like a script, even in the Unity documentation, which I probably got to go get because I don't remember. But it's something like, well, here, first let's just start the loop, the if statement. It's like, if you click the button, so if input, that's all your like input devices class, get button, nope, get mouse button, oh no, get button, because watch, get button down. So what this does is your game is looping. If it senses that you clicked the button, just pressed it down, it'll run this if statement once. So on the second loop, it won't actually run this script again unless you press the button down again. So it's just checking if you pressed it down once. So if input.get button down, hitting weird things on my keyboard. You can tell I programmed very recently. Not really. Alright, and we're going to say fire 1. And you're going to be like, what are you talking about? If you worked with Unity, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you haven't, then you'll be like, what are you talking about? And I'll show you in a second this fire 1 thing. So if input get button down, do something. What are we going to do? We're going to make a variable, raycast hit. We'll use this in a second, I promise. If physics, oh no, we need to do something with the camera. Shoot. You see, and I already forgot what the script is, so I'm going to go copy it from a website from Unity. So I'm opening up Chrome right quick, and I know I don't have any kind of streaming to show my web browsing, which I probably should, but maybe next time. So I'm going to Unity. You know what, I'm just going to Google. Honestly, just Google raycast hit input, and that probably get me the scripts. Physics raycast. Yep. Look, I'm gonna even put the link right here in the code. That's Unity's physics raycast site. All I looked up in Google was raycast hit input, and that's like the first thing that came up. So I'm gonna copy this code exactly as is. Oh, maybe not exactly that one. I need to also add the word camera. So scratch that. Scratch this one. Take something like this one, camera rays. It's really the one you want. And all I gotta do. Okay. Well, I'll pretend like I'm writing it, although I could just copy and paste this. Okay, so we have a hit, and then we need to get a ray from the camera to the screen. So we're going to say, hey, ray, I need a ray from camera to screen, point, yeah, it just has the word camera. I need something a little more substantial. Camera.main, camera.main. Alright, before I move on, I'll just tell you what that means. That's going to get the camera from your scene. This is main camera. It's always the first camera that has this tag main camera. So if you hit camera.main, it'll be the first one up in this hierarchy with the main camera. Okay. Good detour. Good to know. Stuff I learned. Stuff that you should know. Camera.main dot screen point to ray. So basically it makes a screen from the camera to where you clicked. And then, well, not yet, not until I put input dot mouse position. Oops, mouse position. Perfect. So now we have a ray. Now we're going to check if that ray hit something. If physics dot raycast the ray and the output of hit. So it's going to check, hey, if that if you cast that ray from the camera, are you guys even seeing me? Did I activate this? Yeah. If the camera, I'm sorry, if there's a ray from the camera to where you clicked and further through space, did it hit anything? And if it hits like the ground plane, for example, or another object, it'll be like, yes, of course I hit something. And this is the exact point in 3D space that I hit it. So what do we want to do with that hit point? Oh, sorry, yeah. So it puts everything from that ray into this variable, raycast hit dot. And then in hit, there's a hit dot point. And so that's the actual point in 3D space that it touched something. There's a whole bunch of other things in there too, and of course you can use the Unity documentation to find all that out. But all I want to do is I'm going to say the navmesh agent set destination to that point. All right, all 46 minutes so far to lead to this bit of code. Okay, so that's it. That's a script. Just to say again, on start, basically, we're grabbing a reference to our navmesh agent component, and then on the update, it just runs every time, and if you press that mouse button down, it's going to see where your mouse is on the screen, and then get your guy to set the destination to that area. So, let's see if this is any good. So I'm going to minimize that. Let me do something. Look, I have main camera selected. I'm going to say align view to select it. So this is exactly now the exact same view. I kind of want to get a more upward angle and zoomed out view of all of this. Something like that. So now I still have main camera selected. I can say game view align with view. So now we can see my game's kind of there, and I kind of want to move it up or move it down, whatever floats your boat. And let me just align with view again. Yeah, that looks good. So, alright, I mean, for what I want to do. When it play, awesome, we have everything falling. Now I'm going to click on the screen. And the guy moves there automatically. No other scripts besides navmesh agent. So wherever I click, he goes there. Cool. Now, the problem with this. First of all, I don't think he collides with anything because I disabled that collider. But if I put that collider back on, it'll just say, haha, you put the collider back on. Didn't do really anything. I guess it is colliding, but there's no physics or anything with this object, so it doesn't really care. Alright, cool. 12 minutes left. Jeez. So we got the navmesh agent. Navmesh agent doesn't do anything. Oh, gosh, man. I'm always like losing focus, just like I do with all my game stuff. If I click on navigation, you can see there's like arrows and stuff coming out of his head. I'm going to tell you right quick as I click around. Hopefully my explanation makes sense. The black arrow is his current velocity. It's computed in the navmesh agent component. So he's moving at that velocity towards that stuff. The rotation is being handled by navmesh agent component as well. And then that light blue arrow is the desired velocity. So like if I click here, desired velocity, eat immediately to the left, but his real velocity has to kind of like, okay, I got to slow down and then go that way. And then that red arrow at the bottom is the best path to get to the destination, where the red circle is the destination. So hopefully that all makes sense. But all I really want from this is the desired velocity. Everything else I don't want navmesh agent to do. So I don't want navmesh agent to actually move any objects. I don't want navmesh agent to tell me what the velocity is. I want to disable all of that. I just want the desired velocity, because the desired velocity is going to tell me what's the best velocity for me to get to from my point to the point that I clicked on. But I don't want to use the NavMesh agent's built-in controls to actually move me there. I want to use either physics or animation to tell me how to get over there. And what I thought third-person controller in Unity was doing was just using NavMesh agent and the animation to get to where it's going. But earlier we saw that the NavMesh agent was still like, or the player was still like, couldn't push that 200 kilogram block. So not sure exactly why that is, but yeah, I'll figure that out. Okay. So that's NavMesh agent. Doesn't do anything except actually move stuff around in the best order. Oh, and I guess I should add an obstacle just so you can see that in play. So I'm going to add one more cube. Man. Or no, let's add a different object. Let's add like a sphere. Yeah, and then we can put this at the root. Move it a little bit closer to here, and maybe off to the side a little bit, and make it big, bra. I might, let's make another folder called, yeah, you saw a preview of what I was trying to do. Let's call it materials. It's just hard to see everything when everything's white. So make a material, create a material using the standard shader, which is amazing in Unity 5. Let's just call this gray. And you know what? We'll make it pink. No, we'll make it gray. Like this dark gray. Yeah. And then we can kind of drag it onto things. I think so. Gray. Gray. Oh, cool. So now we can actually see our player in the falling blocks, but then actually get the effect of the other thing. Alright, so navigation. We made this a nav mesh static. Let's also make this a nav mesh static and rebake it. Bam. So now the guy can't walk around here. He could technically be on top of the sphere, but we don't have any kind of links for him to jump up to the top of the sphere, so he'll never be up there. So he'll just be walking around. And look, this is the polygons I was talking about. So NavMesh agent makes all these like triangles. And so it's like, oh, if you're here and you click here, you have to go through all these triangles and also get here. But it gets the point closest to the sphere, so it's like the most optimum way to get to the next point. And I love that kind of stuff. So awesome, awesome, good stuff, Unity. Play. You can see I clicked around the sphere. He's going to walk around it. Perfect. Go behind the sphere. He goes around the sphere. And even just keep clicking around the sphere. He'll know what to do. No problem. He's a pro. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So NavMesh agent is amazing. I love the NavMesh agent, but we just can't use it for the rest of what I want to use Unity for. It's like its physics engine and its animation engine, which are all very amazing things. So, okay. Josh, 7 minutes. Okay. Keeping track of the time, and I'm losing it. I'm losing it. So, here we go. Back to this. So, NavMesh agent. It has a velocity. It has a rotation. And it has a desired velocity. And I know you're asking me, why are you just writing this down? I'm like, oh, two things. I want to remember it, and these are the actual words I think it used in code. So I can show you that too. Desired velocity, and it has like path and other stuff. I'll just kind of leave it as a line. But really, the only thing we want off of here is the desired velocity. Shoot, let's use a different color. We don't want rotation, we don't want velocity. We just want this one. Cool. So we can apply that straight onto a rigid body. But the other thing I want to do is I want the animation to also tell me, to give me the acceleration. Wow, I think I'm like coming into realization right now. So I want the animation to be like the acceleration and basically the ultimate velocity teller. So we have NavMesh agent, has its own built-in thing. Animation, yeah, let me just, I'm going to delete this right quick. The animation has a delta position at a given frame, which is technically velocity, and a delta rotation, which is not really torque, but using that you get torque somehow. I want to use both of these, so definitely want to use the delta position, definitely want to use the delta rotation. And then finally, rigid body, which is our physical object component, has a velocity and has some kind of torque. And you modify those using add force command. If you want to be like very formal and technical about it, not hacking it, not like force the velocity to be a certain velocity. If you want to kind of give it real physics, you use the add force function, and I think add torque function. Right now, I think I'm just using the way I have it set up in my actual example. I think I'm only using delta rotation. The torque I'm kind of really not using, and I don't know if I need to use it, but this one I definitely need to use the add force command. And then you can add a max force. So like you can say, hey, you can apply up to this much force. So typically if you're walking, doing everything, you can meet your delta position and your delta rotation. But if you try to put too much force, it'd be like, no, you can't. So like if you're walking and you walk across a box and the box is pushing you back, you can't just add infinite force to push the box forward so you can keep walking forward. So yeah, that was one of the bugs I kind of ran into. But anyway, so far all we did was talk about NavMesh agent. And I think I'll just end on that, just talking about the nav. But next time we can talk about animation in the rigid body. Okay. Sorry I'm so low. I stepped down for a second. I have something I stand on. Yeesh, what's going on down there? I just saw that. Probably totally my fault. I'm gonna click on this thing. Oh, no. Don't know. Not my problem. Sorry, y'all. Sorry for the weird stuff at the bottom. Okay, back to Unity. In fact, back to NavMesh agent, just so I can show you the script right quick. NavMesh movement. Like I said, NavMesh agent has a few of these things I was talking about, like a velocity, a desired velocity, and it also had a, yeah, I didn't see the rotation, but I do see update rotation. Okay. So, if we don't want NavMesh agent really to do anything, just to give us a desired velocity, we're going to have to do two things. We're going to have to say NavMesh agent update position equals false. Won't update our position, and it won't update our rotation. So done. So that is actually how you screw up NavMesh movement. Alright, next time we'll get into the animation movement, into this into my script. But what I'll leave you, yes, what I'll do. What I'll leave you off on is the stuff that I was actually working on. So I'm gonna minimize this. I'm gonna open up a different project. Let's open up Sand City. Sure, I'll save this scene. Okay, this is my project. I think it's the movement project. Yes! I'll show you how to get this 3D Studio Max humanoid here, but I basically exported him and gave him all the same animations that the other guy had. So hit play. Here, I'll zoom in here. And player. Just focus on that player. Here we go. Now he's just moving around, Dun, dun, dun. Alright, and each of these blocks is 1 kilogram, 2 kilogram, 3 kilogram, 4 kilogram. So if I try to push a 1 kilogram box, no problem. Come around here, try to push this 2 kilogram box. Harder, but I could still do it. And if I could get my mouse right. Awesome. 3 kilogram box. Yeah, but then like the friction takes over, so I gotta back off and then run towards it again. I get a little bit and then back off, run towards it. Blah. Back off, run towards it. Blah. I can see that my test scene here looks very similar to what we were just working on. So that's great. And yay, I got the third one off. Alright, now this is the 4 kilogram one. It's hard to move. And it makes sense, right? Like if I'm a 1 kilogram object, it should be hard to move something 3 or 4 times as heavy as I am. I'm surprised I was able to move the one-time thing, something as heavy as me around, but you know, I'm not. And we'll talk about that script later. Alright, and this is the built-in like third-person controller stuff still, so if you hit shift you can still walk around. If you hit C you can crouch and move around. And then I added buttons because I use Unity Cloud build, and it just like I can basically commit my Git, which is a file repository, and once I commit it, it loads up on my phone like maybe 15-20 minutes later. Well, it doesn't load up on my phone. I get an email. I can just press a button and it'll install, and I get it. But yeah, man, this has been great. Like I've been loving the experience I've been having with this so far. Now I just need to actually make it a game. But yeah, I'm having fun with it. But alright, on that note, thank you for watching, if you did, which I don't think anyone did. Oh, can you hide a cheese in the game? What? Man, this is like the first person that ever asked me anything. I should be so excited. Like, but I don't know what he's talking about. Hide a cheese in the game. What? I gotta go. It's already been an hour. But yeah, I will try to post these up. I don't know how Twitch really works with all of this, but I've been having a good time with it. So yeah, I'll post this video up if I can. I know like if I look at my video manager, it shows like here are all the past things. I've been playing some video games, and oh yeah, that's a brilliant idea, ZZ T-Man ZZ. Is that how you say it? Yeah, you just make cheese on the level somewhere, and then you just go find it. And you're like, oh, it's in between these buildings somewhere. Mmm, delicious. I found the cheese. And we'll call the game, Who Moved My Cheese? Copyright infringement? Maybe. I don't know. Alright, cool. I'm going to go. Next time, we'll be talking about animation movement and rigid body movement, how I got them to do all this crazy stuff. I'll try to do this tomorrow or Wednesday. And yeah, if you know how to post these videos, please let me know, because I have no idea. Goodbye, Twitch. See you next time.